Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, we have a wonderful guest joining us in the Tutoring Business Success Support Group. We have Mike Bergen of Chariot Learning and Tests and the Rest podcast, and he is also one of the founders of Test Prep Tribe. Mike, welcome.
Thank you for having me and Happy New Year, Michael.
Well, Happy New Year. A little bit more about Mike for our listeners and watchers today. So Mike is an education industry expert who has taught, trained, or delivered support to countless students and teaches over the last 30 years. After a long history with Kaplan Test Prep and Huntington Learning Center, Mike founded Chariot Learning, which delivers expert individualized SAT and ACT prep from Rochester, New York to everywhere else. Educators across the U.S. benefit from Mike's knowledge and experience through, as said, the TestBright SAT ACT curriculum system. Mike is also the co-host of Test and the Rest podcast, creator of the Roots to Words vocabulary program, and publisher of Tutor, the newsletter. Last but not least, he's proud to be the founding president of the National Test Prep Association, the NTPA. Mike, again, I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
It's great. Well, today we're talking about a very important topic that I know you're definitely very passionate about. I know a lot of other educators, tutors were very passionate about, and that's the power of curriculum and how it can really bring about change towards success for students and tutors. So, for you, like from your experience, how does a great curriculum improve instruction, learning?
So it's interesting to me because, I work primarily in the test prep space. And I know that this uh, happens in other lines of tutoring as well, but you have some tutors that they just want to respond reactively to whatever a student needs help with. We're going to review this practice test. I'm going to come up with 5 questions on fractions for you or something like that. And what I find is that great teachers and tutors are kind of teaching with one arm tied behind their proverbial backs if they don't have a plan going into the session and a plan for commonly taught material. A curriculum is a game plan. I mean, that's like we tell our students, right? A goal without a plan is just a wish. Well, if my goal is to teach a student everything she needs to know about SAT math before the big test, I should have more than just a desire to do that. I should have a plan. I should have it all laid out. I should know how I'm going to do it, what the timeline should be. I should have a sense of the best, most productive and efficient way to instruct that material and all the other pieces of information that I need to share and have it proven where I've taught it this way with students before and I've improved the curriculum based on that.
No, that's very true. I 100% concur that we do need to have goals and a curriculum that can help support those goals towards success. I like what you said about goals. Without a plan, it's just a wish, and we really need to help implement those strategies. And also for students, so they get a sense for where they're going, what's coming up, and as tutors as well, we need to keep organized so we know what's going on, or else it's very scattershot, and success would be diminished from that.
That's exactly right. It doesn't take away from a teacher
Oh.
who chooses to do without, except to say that imagine how much more efficient you could be, how much easier it would be for you to focus on the student in front of you if you weren't also trying to plan the lesson in the moment.
Absolutely. And like for yourself, from your experience, like what makes a curriculum great? Like what are some of I don't know, the factors or the secret recipe to making a
So
solid?
I'm glad you asked me. I've been working in the curriculum development space for a long time. Before I started Chariot Learning, I worked for Huntington Learning Center and I was in the corporate office there for nearly a decade, creating all of their SAT and ACT programs, SSAT, IC. I learned a lot about retail prep, and then I learned a lot about how to create a curriculum for exceptional individual tutors, because that's the premise of Chariot Learning. And I think that when I'm speaking to tutors in your group and my groups and just the kind of tutors we connect with are professionals. They take tutoring very seriously. It's very often their main occupation or the side hustle that they love. And they take it seriously, and that makes for better teachers. And, first thing to keep in mind is, of course, that the teacher is the primary driver of change. A great curriculum can cover up for a bad teacher, but doesn't deliver great instruction. A great teacher, a great tutor delivers great instruction. But a curriculum, when you develop it the right way, I like to call it the three C's of curriculum. Okay. Three elements that you're looking for. The first is curation, which is to say that a great curriculum is kind of focused on concision, the way grammarians are, where you cut out what doesn't need to be instructed and you make sure you include everything that does.
Mhm.
And that can be challenging. Say we're talking about grammar, since I just alluded to grammar. So, like the story of grammar on the SAT and ACT, there are very specific things you have to teach. And there's so much to cover. You want to make sure you get through all that without including extraneous information. But as new information is tested, like the College Board and ACT are now dabbling in testing this concept that a semicolon is used to set apart items in a list with commas in them. And that's not something most high schoolers know. So you have to include that information, say, yeah, you're going to see that, but maybe you're not going to see some other rule, and I'm not going to spend time talking about it. So it's like the curriculum determines what's important to discuss. Maybe you can't discuss everything, but these are the priorities. And then there's a cadence, right? Is that we rarely have as much time with our students as they need. That might have to do with their own commitments, the family's budget, our own busy schedules, right? So we want to be efficient. And a curriculum should be designed to give you a good sense of how long you can devote to each piece of information. So if we're talking about test preparation, right, you have this much time for reading, this much time for math. This is how long it should take with an average student, and then your mileage may vary.
Mhm.
Those are the two obvious pieces. The third C, which I don't think a lot of us think about, but we should, is comedy. I don't mean comedy like a great curriculum has lots of jokes that are going to make you
Yeah.
sound funnier than you are. But I think about comedy as preparation for the moment, in that you may be reactively funny, that's witty, but very few people can stand up and to a cold crowd without a head start or anything to react to, just start delivering laughs. That takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of iteration. You write down the joke, you try it in front of some people, you tweak it, you test it, you get the moments right, and eventually you have a bit. And then eventually you have a whole stage show. And curriculum should be like that, in that it's tweaked over and over again. It's polished so that your segues are smooth. You know where the laugh lines are, right? I mean, I'm a dad, right? I have dad jokes for different points, but it's not dad jokes, it's tutor jokes. I have jokes for different points in every piece of curriculum that I know I'm going to deliver. And my teachers don't have to deliver my laugh lines, but they have theirs as well. And when you know you're going to hit the same point, and you know that students are likely to react a certain way, you can have a bunch of different responses that make you seem more knowledgeable, more astute, maybe even funnier in the moment. That is key when we remember that the teachers that evoke the most change are usually the ones that make the best and deepest connections with their students. And I like a curriculum that facilitates that process.
I love that. And I definitely love what you said about comedy just now, Mike, and really taking your curriculum and adding in those special spices as an educator to build connection with your students, because your curriculum on at surface value can sometimes be viewed as dry and a sludge to get through. But
Yeah.
if you make it engaging and you make it exciting and you make it something that's going to be invigorating for students, and I want to do this, that makes a difference. And they're going to dive in with both feet. They're ready to go.
Yeah,
And
I like that. I like what you said about that, right? Like the curriculum should be a pleasure to the students. It should be a pleasure to the teacher too. Again, we're tutors. If we're going to teach the same lessons over and over and over again, we need to like them. We need to feel like they make us better.
exactly. And I think that like, I know for myself when I'm working with students, and I have, I'm more elementary school mostly, math, but you have to be able to take that curriculum, take what's in the Common Core or IXL or whatever country I'm teaching to, but make it exciting each time, like it's your first time teaching it each time, the best you can.
Right.
And that makes that appreciable difference that, yeah, because you could easily make it a very, okay, do this worksheet, do this worksheet, do this worksheet. Okay, go. You're done. Great. We hit that goal. Check. But that's going to cause people to check out. You
Yeah.
want them keeping in.
And
So
you're right. Once you've taught the same concept for 10 years to every student you've seen, you start to get in the back of your head, like, I already told you this, but you didn't tell the student in front of you that. You told the
exactly.
student last week or the student last year that. So, right. Being able to reset and say, this is what everybody goes through. This is the beginner orientation, if you will. This is for this stage in your instruction. I find, and this is especially true in test prep,
Mhm.
like students in the first 80 percentile points, the 80th percentile and lower, like they all have kind of the same needs as far as reviewing content. The students who are shooting for the highest possible scores, of course, they're going to go off road. They're the special snowflakes that you need to treat individually because whatever is keeping them from getting perfect scores is different for each one.
Mhm.
But the students, most students, they have to go through the same gate to get to that level.
Exactly. Absolutely. And no, and again, I love what you're saying about again individualizing it, customizing it, but being cognizant as well of cadence, like you said earlier, and understanding that every student's going to have their own rhythm and their own schedule and their own needs, and we have to, as educators, do our best to have a framework, but be able to work within the matrix of the student as well to help them achieve their optimal success.
Yeah.
Excellent. And for yourself, like I know you have TestBright SAT, ACT curriculum. So how does this system provide student success? What's sort of that? What's again, what are some of those ingredients that help?
Yeah. So think about that. Like student success comes from a great teacher with a plan. And when you have the plan and you know that, say, you're using the SAT curriculum and you can introduce students in the way that I found over 30 years in test prep. I mean, I remember when I was with Kaplan, we were tweaking that first session and we tried all different iterations. And when I was with Huntington, we tried all different iterations. And I have so over 30 years of working with students and overseeing countless teachers who work with students and getting all that feedback. I have a good sense of what you should cover in the first hour with a student to get their buy-in, to make sure they understand meta skills and strategies, to establish that rapport that's going and let them know what to expect in terms of how much work they're going to do. Like the curriculum embeds a lot of experience that you may not personally have, but also gives you the opportunity to deploy your own individual understanding and insight. The idea that the students, we know what students are challenged by. We know what questions and content. So the curriculum is, established so that we'll walk a student through certain concepts and then have lots of test-like questions with the common traps and tricks and wording that throw students off. And again, this is so that they can experience all of the challenges of a test environment in real time with a teacher or tutor so that they can get correction and learn from their mistakes. Right? So that if a student goes through my SAT or ACT curriculum with a skilled tutor, I know that they've covered the fundamentals. They've covered everything they need to cover. They have a strategy for every question type. They have learned their fundamentals of grammar, most of the math, right? We don't cover everything at some of the very random items that the SAT or ACT might throw at you, and that's where the practice tests really do come in handy. Curriculum is not a replacement for practice testing and test review. It is something that supports that process. It's something that it's much more efficient to go through a curriculum for many students than to jump right to testing, because then you learn the story up front and then you're in a better position to capitalize on the practice tests and the review after the fact. And the review can reference the practice material, can reference the curriculum again. Say, go back to where we discussed how to use colons and semicolons and dashes and make sure that you're good on those rules. Go back to your writing reference or, revisit special right triangles because we're going to see them all the time. And here's where you find that in your book.
Oh, love that. And that's such a wonderful way to be proactive and help students to really embrace this upcoming process for them in a way that's going to be suited to their needs. And again, you're setting a great tone for them and a great first steps for the SAT and the ACT, which is fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
how are students like so for students, that's a great way to promote success. For the teachers that are teaching them, how does your curriculum help promote success as well?
So, first, and obviously most importantly, student success means business success. If you help a student get the scores that he's looking for, he and his parents will not be able to help but tell other people about you, right? That's the first and the most important step in being a successful tutor from the professional perspective, right? You have to do well. You have to help them get good enough grades, high enough scores that they tell other people. You have to make the connection. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to seem like you have a plan. All of that comes through, and having a curriculum is professional. That is, but another thing is the fact that when you have a curriculum that's designed the way the TestBright is, then you can consider all the different ways you can expand the scope of your service because the curriculum is designed to be deployed in person or online, individually, in small groups, in large groups. You could do SAT only, ACT only. We have an SAT, ACT boot camp. Like there's so many different ways. And I don't say this just from a theoretical perspective because Chariot Learning uses the TestBright curriculum and we do all of that. We teach online, we teach in-person classes, we teach online classes, we teach large classes, we teach boot camps, we do lots of tutoring. And that is how we know that this works. And so tutors that are looking to imagine their practice and expand it or explore different ways to serve students in their community, come up with different ideas. This is a modular, scalable program, and you're free to use it the way that works best for your practice. And I think that's important because so many teachers, and you hear this all the time, Michael, people are asking, well, how do I expand? How do I get into group instruction? What do I teach then? Or things like that. This is not a manual on how to build your business, right? There's so much more to learn about that. But when you have the curriculum, that piece is covered and that makes the rest easier.
That is a perfect point that you just said. You know, like once you have that curriculum in place, the rest is easier because I know a lot of people will ask, you know, I know I used to do this when I was starting out for the first couple of years. Where am I going to get resources? What does it look like? How do I find this resource for this and for that? And you got something that's all in one, it's in place. And so now as tutors, you can focus on the marketing, you can focus on all those other pieces of building your business. And like you said at the very beginning of this last question here, once you are having success by teaching solidly, referrals pour in, word of mouth, and things just thrive for you. And you have that solid framework right from the start, from that curriculum, to be able to impart now your awesome tutor abilities and teaching abilities. With that, you're unstoppable.
That's
And
the
of
key,
course,
right? And the great thing about a curriculum like mine is that if you are not, say, heading into the digital SAT, you have not learned every single thing you need to know about it, well, you're going to learn that from the teacher's guide. You're going to get an education in the test as it evolves. We update our curriculum every year, sometimes more than once a year, especially in times of change, because my team, my colleagues, we're all really close to the test and we're excited about making sure that we're on the cutting edge. We're not teaching kids last year's test or what the ACT was 5 years ago. We want to reflect the test as it is today. So as you teach the curriculum, you learn what's changing in the tests.
amazing. Yeah, always evolving. That's perfect. So, Mike, thank you so much for being here. Again, if you have any questions for Mike, please feel free to continue to post them down below. And Mike, is there a way that people can find you and your curriculum?
I mean, there's so many ways to find me, right? You can find me at chariotlearning.com. You can find me at gettestbright.com, which is the home of both the curriculum and the Tests and the Rest podcast. You can find me in the Test Prep Tribe on Facebook. You can find me in your group, right? I'm here. So you can find me lots of places or email me at mike@chariotlearning.com.
Amazing. And I just want to give a small plug to Test and the Rest podcast is like there's hundreds of episodes. Literally almost, well, there's always going to be something else to find, but there's almost literally anything you need to help you, it's there. It's a great start point to jump in.
Thank you.
Uh,
I mean, maybe you're saying that because you're a guest that we enjoy having on the show, but
maybe a
that
little
just
biased, but
speaks to
yeah.
the quality of our programming.
But no, I mean, but it's definitely a game-changing podcast, and definitely people have. I know members of the group have mentioned in here the benefit of Test and the Rest podcast. So definitely check it out if you haven't. And Mike, I want to thank you so much. We'll put your links down below. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And again, if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to reach out to Mike anytime or post below. And as always, everyone, make it a great day.
Thanks so much, Michael.